Hi, good morning. Welcome to the kitchen of House of Light. My name is Ceri. I'm super pleased to be here again in one of my favourite places ever, either in the kitchen or in the yoga hall, is where I love to be. So today I will be sharing with you just one of the yummiest things ever. It was a bit of an accidental discovery, actually. I was invited to a friend's birthday party, and I know that she is gluten-free and I'm sugar-free. And I knew that a few other people there were going to be vegan. So it's that challenge moment of like, okay, what kind of cake do I take to that party then? So I've named them, this range of cakes that I'm now doing, as air cakes, because literally by the time there's no sugar, there's no dairy, it's vegan, there's no gluten. It's like, what's left actually? But what is left is the most amazingly yummy, delicious cheesecake, double chocolate cheesecake. And the best thing about it is it doesn't feel like you're trying to be healthy. It doesn't feel like you're trying to compromise. It feels like a full fat, indulgent, amazing treat. So I'm going to talk you through how to make these. So this version, as you can see, I did in a large springform cake tray. And then you can just cut it up into wedges. And the version that I'm going to do today, that I've also tried before, is just using little rubbery cupcake molds, so you can do individual versions, but it's all the same ingredients. So just my passion, my thing is sugar-free puddings. I do occasionally eat dairy and I do eat gluten, but for me, sugar-free puddings are the way forwards. I just find the way that I generally create my whole diet is by listening to my body. And one thing that screams out really loudly to me when I eat refined sugar, it just doesn't suit me. I just feel really rotten. So but I've also got quite a sweet tooth. So I've found ways around. I've explored all of the sugar alternatives and feel like they've all got pros and cons for different flavors, for different reasons, for different tastes. So I'll try and explain a little bit today about why I've chosen the sweeteners that I have. So if we start off, as you can see, it's got 3 layers. It's got the base at the bottom. So that is made up of just 4 ingredients actually. We've got almond flour, about 1.5 cups of almond flour, medjool dates, 12 medjool dates, a pinch of salt, and what was the last one in there? And some coconut oil, just to help it set once it goes into the fridge or the freezer. So I've already got the dates and the almond flour over here in the blender. Just so it wasn't too noisy, I did some of the blending beforehand, and I'm just going to add in the coconut oil. It's about 50 grams, about maybe 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. I'm going to put in there and just blitz it up. So the dates have already given it a stickiness and started to make it into like a breadcrumb consistency, and then the oil just finishes that job and makes it into a dough-like consistency. So using the dates in this base, one of the reasons is, for me, from the reading that I've done, why my body reacts badly to refined sugar and not other sweeteners. There can be very, very subtle differences, but it really changes the way that your body metabolizes the sweetener. So with refined sugar, there's nothing else in there. There's no minerals, there's no nutrients, there's no fiber. It's pure sugar. So your body has no choice but to break it down by sending it straight to the liver. So for some people, this can make you feel nauseous. It can result in weight gain. Obviously, there's the effect on your teeth, which isn't great. Because I'm using dates, you've got loads of fiber in there, which helps your body to metabolize the sugar differently. And it's also got minerals, quite a lot of iron in there. So even though you are still eating sugar, I know a lot of people say, oh, sugar is sugar is sugar. It's the same molecular base. For me, these subtle differences, these subtle additions to the sugar alternatives make a real difference in the way that it feels in my body. So I'm just going to now, you can just take little scoops of this. I don't know if you can see, it kind of comes together in a dough-like consistency. And I'm just going to squidge that into the base of the cupcake cases. If you have time, it can be easier to do this stage by stage, and every time you've put a layer in, put them in the freezer for a little bit so it hardens off. But it's also possible just to do it in one go. So I'm just going to do a few as an example here. So this is the little bit of salt. It gives it that almost salted caramel type flavour. And obviously in a traditional style cheesecake, this would be a biscuit base. So this is our biscuit base replacement. I've also used, I did a slight variation on this recipe that was, instead of being a double chocolate cheesecake, it was a choco coconut cheesecake. So instead of almond flour in the base, I used coconut flour. Exactly the same amount and exactly the same outcome. And then in the middle layer, which we'll come to next, instead of it being a white chocolate layer, it was more of a sweet coconut layer, using more coconut milk and coconut oil instead of, as you'll see in a moment, the cacao butter. Okay, so we've just got the base pressed in there into the base of the cupcake cases. I'll put that on one side. The next layer, oh God, it just gets yummier. The next layer is a whole block of creamed coconut. I've used organic creamed coconut. It's a 200 gram block. I've also added in there 100 grams of melted cacao butter. So just bearing in mind, if you're on a raw diet, just melting it, taking a bit longer to melt it rather than putting a bowl into boiling water. Just put it into tepid water and leave it a little bit longer to keep the temperature under the 52 degrees that it needs to be categorized as raw. So the creamed coconut, the cacao butter, a little bit more coconut oil, again about 50 grams, something like 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. I put some, you could put vanilla essence in there. I had some vanilla pods, so I put a little bit of vanilla seeds in there. And then to sweeten it, it really is to taste. So for me, I like just a little hint of sweetness, and already the creamed coconut has got some sweetness to it. So anything from around 1/3 of a cup of agave up to from 1/4 up to 1/3, something in that range, depending on your taste buds. So again, with the sweetener in this level, I've used agave. This is more based on the flavour, really. I try to suit the sweeteners to the other flavours in that mixture. So I find agave suits more high notes. So when I'm making a vegan cheesecake, maybe with the soaked cashew nuts, and you blend that up to make the cheese mixture, it's a really nice light sweet flavour, the agave. And since this is a white chocolate base, I felt it needed the same kind of lightness, so we've used agave in this layer. So I'm now just going to spoon a second layer onto the base. This is where it's quite handy to let it set a little bit, but we're just going to go with it this morning and see if I can pipe a third layer onto this squodgy layer. It's all experimental. Okay, so there's the white chocolate layer in. And it really does, like, I don't know if you're going to go ahead and make this, but please do. It's totally like white chocolate. That combo of the cacao butter and the vanilla and the sweetener. Okay, so the final layer, the top layer, is going to be the dark chocolate layer. This layer I also serve just as a standalone pudding. I put in little shot glasses and call it a chocolate mousse. So it's a combination of avocado, banana. I've put in a little bit of coconut oil, again, just to help with the setting in this particular dessert. And again, a sweetener. So to match the kind of dark, richer flavours in the topping, rather than the agave, which I think suits high notes more and lighter flavours, I've gone with date syrup, or another alternative would be maple syrup. Just that kind of more caramelly, rich kind of flavour to suit the dark chocolate layer. So I've put it inside just a rolled up piece of parchment paper, of greaseproof paper, just so that you can pipe a little spiral onto the top. So as I say, this is an amazing standalone pudding. If you put it into a little glass and decorate the top with some cacao nibs or some desiccated coconut, then it's really yummy, fantastic. I give it to my kids and they think it's obviously a huge treat. They're like, you know, they're getting chocolate mousse, and I'm actually safe in the knowledge that they're basically eating avocados and bananas. So, great kiddie alternative. Okay, so I've just done those 4 there. And as I say, you can go to town with the toppings to make it look beautiful. I've got some dried rose petals here I'm just going to scatter on top. If you have desiccated coconut, it's a nice contrast to put on top. I've also got some cacao nibs, because it's not just about the visuals or the flavour, it's also about the texture. So to get as many different textures, you've got this kind of sticky, chewy, biscuity, almost brownie texture base. And then once they've set, they're kind of creamy but firm layers of the white chocolate and the dark chocolate. And then something with a little bit of bite on top is nice, just to add a 3rd texture there. So once you've created your cheesecake, so just to recap, the amounts that I've given you, I'm trying to think of the size cake tin that I use. It's probably like a regular, maybe 8-inch springform cake tin. So you can transfer these amounts into doing a complete cake. Or I would say you'd probably, with these small cupcake holders, you'd probably do about 20 maybe of the mini cupcake ones, and then put them into the freezer. So again, depending on whether you've gone for the whole cake size or the mini versions, the whole cake I would say needs a minimum of 2 hours to fully set. And then if it's completely frozen, when you come to eat it, I would transfer it to either the fridge for an hour or just totally outside of the fridge and the freezer, just on the side for a good half an hour. You want it just at that point where it's firm enough to slice and you can see all the colours, the different layers, but not so it started to collapse and all the oil has started to melt. So unfortunately it needs eating really quickly once it's ready, so you know, just got to force it down. So, and with the mini ones, obviously they freeze quicker, put them in the freezer again, but I'd say maybe after an hour or an hour and a half, they should probably be set. So there we go. That is my raw, vegan, gluten-free double chocolate cheesecake. I'm just going to check in with Sally that there's any questions coming in today, or...
I've got a question.
Oh, right.
Could you make like a mint version?
Yeah, you can. My favourite way of doing mint and raw chocolate is to use xylitol or xylitol, however you say it, the sugar alternative as the sweetener, because you almost then get that matchmaker. Do you remember mint matchmakers that you used to have at Christmas? Yeah. So the xylitol retains its kind of a little bit of crunch. Mm-hmm. So if you put in, again, peppermint oil, but be cautious with it. I've made the mistake of putting too much in and it tastes like some dodgy chocolate toothpaste. It's really not good. So be really cautious with the peppermint oil, just like literally 1 or 2 drops in a whole batch of the chocolate mixture. And as I say, using the xylitol as a sweetener, and then you get that kind of minty, crunchy texture as well. So, yeah. Okay.
No more questions at the moment, but we can go back when people are watching the replay and we can answer through the comments.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for joining, everyone that joined us, and I can't wait to see you next time back in the House of Light kitchen. Okay, bye.